It's always good to be back sharing with you guys, especially on a topic that I'm so passionate about and continue to do my best to stay a student myself and always learning, because this is something that for many of us, myself included, I feel we've never really been taught about this as we're moving through school, as we're moving through high school, moving through our lives and in our work environments. But it plays an absolutely crucial role to our mental health, to how we feel within ourselves, our self-talk, our behaviors, addictions, patterns, behaviors. And it's something that is as simple as learning to listen to the body. So today we're going to be talking about the polyvagal theory and the autonomic nervous system. I share these teachings from a couple of different teachers and I'll reference them down in the comments. And this is Dr. Stephen Porges, who brought the polyvagal theory to the world quite a few years ago now. It's used highly in many counseling, psychotherapy, psychology, and many practices around the world to help people, children, individuals understand their nervous system from the inside out. I'll be sharing also from Deb Dana. She and also Stanley Rosenberg have been incredible teachers for myself to really digesting this information that Dr. Porges has put out there with the polyvagal theory, and to allow it to be my own, for my own body, to really help me understand this vehicle and where my nervous system is sitting in any given moment. So my name's Meg. If you are just watching this one for the first time, make sure you jump on my Instagram feed, which is at I am Meg Linton. I'm all about getting off our phones and coming back to the body, because our high use of phones and devices and constant practice of accessing our notifications and likes and comments and shares and scrolling on our phones is not only sending our autonomic nervous systems down the hierarchical ladder into fight flight, but a lot of us are landing in a state that feels dissociated, overwhelmed, numb, and we're losing our ability not only to focus but to be creative. We lose our self-esteem, our confidence, and become a byproduct of who we are. So I'm really big on shifting our self-talk from judgment and comparison to acceptance and self-compassion. And there is no way that we can do that if our autonomic nervous system has shifted from a ventral state, living in safety, feeling authentic and real and calm and present, down into fight, flight, or freeze. So our job as humans, especially in the world we're in, it's 2023 at the moment, is to do our best to learn how to regulate our ANS, our autonomic nervous system, as quickly as possible when we feel that we are triggered or bumped in our environment, so that we can return back to safety and not only be kind and compassionate to ourselves, but grow and create and move towards the best human being that we can possibly be. Because in the world we're in today, we can't fix or change what's going on out there, but the one thing we can do is look at fixing or changing something within ourselves. And I believe that if we start to get to know our bodies from the inside out and understand physiologically, mentally and emotionally what's happening when we are shifting states, then we then have the knowledge to do something about it. For most of us, you can't bake a cake if you don't have the recipe. And how the hell are we supposed to understand what to do with our bodies if we don't understand them? So today we're going to be discussing about the polyvagal theory and getting to know the autonomic nervous system and what it kind of looks like and sounds like in your vehicle, your body, when we are triggered in our environment. If you haven't yet ordered yourself a copy, jump onto the link below to Booktopia, grab yourself a copy of Watch Ya Language. I'm currently in the process at the moment of writing my second book, The Perfection Pandemic, which is based on our addiction to phone use, how our bodies are responding to how we use our phones, what that is communicating to our autonomic nervous system, and how filters and editing, as in body editing tools, are helping solidify the belief that we don't feel worthy or enough as we are. In this first book, I go into a little bit of a personal journey myself on how I had to not only understand my nervous system, but get to know my brain and why I was consistently firing and wiring the same neural pathways that kept me stuck in nearly 30 years of disordered eating. I had to learn about neuroplasticity. I had to understand what my body did when I was triggered in my environment so that I could do what I could to come back to presence, to fire and wire new neural pathways that were more compassionate, that were more kind, and that were more accepting of the self, so that I wasn't choosing to give more ammo or more power to the neural pathways that didn't believe I was enough. The choice is ours. It's up to us as humans what we choose to give our attention and our willpower to, and whatever we choose to give that energy to, the body does not know if that's good or bad. It will just grow whatever it is we continue to give that power to. So you can see some plants behind me here, right? If I choose to water one of those plants and then I choose to not water the other one, it's quite clear what will happen there. One of the plants will grow, one of the plants will die. The same thing is for ourselves. If we continually want to feel agitated and stressed or overwhelmed or anxious, we can't concentrate, we can't sleep, we need to stop giving power to the things that are taking our attention away from our intention. So I'm keeping this quite specific and talking about phones and devices and watches, because every time you get a notification and you draw your focused attention away from what you're doing onto that notification or a message, your brain then simply goes here. You digest the message or the comment or the like that you just got, and it can take up to 20 minutes for you to come back to the situation that you're doing. So say if you are studying, or say if you are at work, or you're learning something, or you're trying to learn a skill like play guitar or create content or whatever it may be. You might even be with a friend at lunch and you receive a message or a notification that you don't like, right? Someone said something on a post that you just put up and it's triggered you. Your body's going to do this. Your mind, even though you've been doing something else, your mind is then going to spin into the should've, could've, would've, or what can I do to fix it? And you'll go on a bit of a journey with that, and it can take up to 20 minutes to come back to the task that you're doing. And if we look at our normal day, so to speak, and how many apps and devices and emails and programs that are available for us to just click onto and to become distracted, then we are wasting so much time in our day, not only losing our focus and concentration, but sending potentially our nervous system into a state of fight, flight every single time we get distracted. Because I guarantee you, if you're getting distracted up to, let's say, 20 times a day, and that's a low number, then you're going to get to sort of the end of your day, the middle of the day, and feel really agitated because you're not getting done what you need to get done. So you're going to start to judge yourself. You're going to start to blame yourself or blame social media or get angry or frustrated. And that is only going to make the situation worse because your body has then dropped into reactivity, which means that you have lost your ability to be present. And that is a cycle. So when I talk about the autonomic nervous system in this conversation, I am most definitely and directly referring to the devices, phones, apps, and social media and big tech that is taking our attention away from our intention. So I'm going to share very basically about the polyvagal theory, and I've got a board behind me. I'm prefer to be a bit of a creative person and like to draw. Sometimes it's a little bit easy to understand. Now, in the notes that I'll supply for this particular video, you will see that the polyvagal theory and the autonomic nervous system, right, is a really easy and helpful guide to understanding our body from the inside out. So to keep it really basic, I like to share this as in we have 3 states in our autonomic nervous system that we can travel through in any one day. Now, the main thing to notice is that none of these states are bad. They are needed for survival and to be able to live, but they are quite different. Now, if we think about these 3 states, you may have heard of the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. Maybe when you were going through school or at like a workshop or a information or a wellness day or things like that. And we hear broadly that our parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest. And we hear broadly that our sympathetic nervous system is fight, flight, or freeze. Now, fight, flight, and freeze are completely different. Now, we have a nerve in our body called the vagus nerve. Our vagus nerve is cranial nerve 11, and it connects our gut and our brain. So the nerve is called the wandering nerve, and it reaches into the back of our brain stem here, which is part of our reptilian brain, which we will go on into in these conversations. But it sort of starts at the base of the neck or at the base of the skull. In the brainstem, it travels down, it comes across, goes across the collarbone, goes across the front of the chest, and it like wanders down through all of the organs, and then it makes connection like sort of back here, sort of where the diaphragm presses onto the belly. Now, this particular nerve, I have shared some breathwork techniques with you already, and you would have noticed that I have been saying breathe in through the nose into the belly, and breathe out through the nose and let the belly fall. And this is to stimulate that vagus nerve. Now, in the polyvagal theory, Dr. Stephen Porges discovered that the vagus nerve has actually 2 branches. So with the 2 branches of the vagus nerve, the parasympathetic system, and I'll draw this in a moment, we have what's called our dorsal vagal state, right? That is kind of in this dorsal area of the spine, and it is known as freeze, shuts down, numb, or dissociated, right? That's where we tap out and we're in a freeze state because whatever situation we're in, we cannot fight, flight, or run or flee. We're really in a true survival state here. And that is at the base, that is at the dorsal part of our spine. It's known as our dorsal vagal system. It is also known as freeze. Now, the second part of that branch, or the vagus nerve, the parasympathetic system, is known as our ventral vagal state, and that is known as social engagement or safety, right? When we are in our parasympathetic state, that means that we are able to make decisions, we can be conscious, and aware of the behaviors and actions and decisions that we are doing to make choices and to rewire the brain. It is within this state, our social engagement state, that we feel safe to have reciprocity and communicate with another human. We can be ourselves and we can post on our social media feeds a real and raw, authentic photo or video of ourselves without editing it or putting on a filter, because we feel confident in who we are, because nothing else matters. We're like, I feel safe to be myself, right? It is a state where we can also be creative, and we can study and we can learn, right? And we can get focused within our dreams and our goals, and we can move towards the things that we want. So it's really important to know that we have two branches of the parasympathetic nervous system. Our green zone, of course, known as ventral vagal, and then our red zone, I like to call it, known as freeze or dissociated. Now, in the middle of that, of course, in this kind of dorsal region, which is kind of just above the lower lumbar and sort of the thoracic region of the spine, we have what's called our spinal sympathetic state. And most of us are very, very, very familiar with what this state looks like and feels like. This is a tense state. This is a fast state. This is a doing state. This is a state where we are on, we are ready. The body is ready to run or to fight or to flee. It is also a survival state. Again, it's not a bad state, but it is known as our spinal sympathetic system, and also, of course, known as fight flight, which I like to call our orange zone. Now, these are the three states of the autonomic nervous system, known as the hierarchical ladder. Now, I'm going to draw this in a moment, but if we think about our green zone, our ventral being at the top of the ladder, and you've got a couple of rungs down, right? If we look at the spine, for example, it's a great way to describe this. We're in our spinal sympathetic state in the middle, and then a couple of rungs down, coming more into that dorsal spine, is our, of course, red zone, our free state. We are a healthy body vehicle in a normal day will travel between its green zone and its orange zone often, right? You might be driving a car and you're listening to your favorite tune, you're on your way into have a meeting which you're really excited about, and you're driving your car and then somebody cuts you off and you think, oh yeah, that wasn't very nice, whatever, I'm still in a really good mood, and you swing down a little bit because you got to brake the car and you come back up here again to your green zone. Now, let's say that, that happened again. You're like, oh man, that's really, really annoying. And you tap down here again and it takes you a little bit longer to come back up to that. You might have turned the Spotify off at this point, and you're kind of now worrying about getting to work late because you might miss the meeting. Now, what then happens there is you pull in to get a coffee because you're like, oh, I'll get a coffee before I go. And then you pull out and you spill the coffee on your new suit or your new gear, whatever it is you've got on, your new set. And then you kind of then hover down a little bit and you think, oh man, I'm pissed off now. I've just spilled coffee on my clothes. I'm late for work. This person comes, it's all their fault. Now, what's happened is your energy has changed very quickly there, and you're now dropping from this top of the ladder where you felt present and excited and creative and playful to now coming into a bit more reactive state, where you now are concerned about being late, and then you think about all the things that could go wrong in your meeting. And then, of course, because you've moved into an unregulated state, you're in a fight-flight state, your body thinks it's running from the tiger, you then arrive at work and then the meeting is shit, right? Because your energy has been focused on what could go wrong just from a few things that unfolded in your morning. But in a healthy nervous system, right, if we, say we've been sleeping really well and we've been looking after our food and our movement and nutrition, we're not scrolling on our phones a lot, all of the above could have happened that I just mentioned there. But what you would have done is recognize that it's not your fault. So yeah, cool, someone cuts you off, no worries, you go down, back up again, right? You then get cut off again, and it's like, oh, like some people out there are having a bad day, and you joke about it. right? You spill your coffee and you laugh about it, right? You even have a chat to about it, and the person that you've got in the meeting goes really well, and so does the rest of your day. So a healthy nervous system will react to the things it needs to react to break a car. When you spill the coffee, you've got to do whatever you need to do, but you will return back to your green state as often as possible. Now, what starts to happen in the world we're in these days, because there is not only phones and devices and things that are demanding our attention, emails and whatever else, plus the millions of apps and notifications that we have got to intentionally make us less focused and more distracted, what's happening is that a lot of us are living in this orange zone, this spinal sympathetic state. So this particular state, again, is reactive. You will feel tense and agitated and anxious. You will feel stressed, like your buttons are being pushed, and you'll move into worry, doubt, fear, judgment, criticism, and comparison. Now, if you start living there, what you're going to find is that you're going to be distracted more by those text messages or notifications. You're going to find yourself scrolling on your phone more because you're going to be looking for something to alleviate what you're feeling, and that then becomes a practice. So you then start to not sleep very well. What also happens is you start scrolling on your phone at night. Your eating patterns might not be that good. You wouldn't be eating the best food, so to speak, maybe eating a lot more processed foods. You might start drinking, which means that is then going to affect your overall health. You're not moving as well. And what's going to happen is you're going to wake up every morning, day in and day out, and you're going to feel exhausted and tired and shit. You're going to really find this lack of energy, and your body then is living in what's called a chronic state of fight flight. And if your body is living in a chronic state of fight flight, it gets really used to that. It's called homeostasis. It gets really used to living what we practice. Whether it be good or bad, the body doesn't know. So if you are consistently living in your orange zone, in fight flight, you're too busy, you've got so much going on, you're not sleeping, you've got so many emails, you're scrolling on your phone for way longer than you ever used to, then what happens is the poor body, the vehicle, is actually going to burn out. So what that means is the body just goes, you know what? I can't handle this anymore. It's like, fuck you. I'm going to tap out. And then your body goes into the bottom state of the ladder, which is known as dissociation, freeze or numb. We then don't care. We don't care about being late for work. You don't care about spilling the coffee on you. You don't even care about the meeting you're going to because it doesn't matter. You become really low and like dissociated with the world and yourself. We lose our ability to be creative. We lose our ability to see. We lose our ability to have fun and play and see gratitude and have kindness for ourselves. And the whole body starts to go into shutdown. Instead of being really tense and agitated through the shoulders and the neck and the head and aggressive and reactive and righteous and things like that, and judgmental, none of it matters. You kind of pull away. It's kind of like a turtle pulling its head into its shell, which we'll discuss soon. Kind of don't want to see anyone. You might get stuck on your phone for hours and hours and hours. And that particular state is known as freeze. Now, within my research, especially for the second book, unfortunately, what's happening in the world we're in, especially post-COVID, because a lot of our 12 to 17 demographic through COVID just had their phones, and so we're just here consistently. We've become addicted to being on our phones, and our body has become used to this feeling and sensation. So we're actually developing like an extra vertebra in the back of our necks from the practice of this. And this particular body position is exactly what freeze state looks like. So before I go any further, none of these states are bad. They are survival mechanisms for us so that we can survive in the world we're in. So I'm going to just explain very briefly, right, how these systems are meant to work. And I do this by kind of talking about animals. So I'm going to get you to visualize that we go to Africa for a moment, and we're in the middle of a safari and just watching the animals free roam. And you're watching a zebra, and she's over in the corner and she's eating this delicious patch of grass, and she's super chill and super happy. And then the zebra then gets a sense, right? Gets a somatic feeling in her body. So she gets a sensation physiologically that she's not safe. What happens in that moment, right, is the hair goes up on her back, all of the blood and the energy and the adrenaline goes up for her body to run from the so-called threat that hasn't even come out of the bushes just yet. Like, it happens like that. And within a moment, right, the lion then comes out of the bushes and the chase is on, of course. So the zebra has all of this energy. The zebra is in her fight-flight state, which means her digestion shuts down in this moment. She has no need to access her reproductive organs. And she is absolutely not in her thinking brain. She is in the limbic region of the brain, which is just like, run, you need to survive. This is all you need to do right now. So lucky for the zebra survives, and the lion goes off to chase an antelope. Now the zebra, within about 5 minutes or so, starts to recognize that she's safe. There is no threat around her, and there's a brand new patch of grass that she can then go and munch on, and she's super happy. She returns her nervous system back to a safe state, and so she enjoys the grass, and when she's in her safe state, her digestion works, which means she then receives all the nutrients. Now, that's a really good example of what our fight-flight system is used for. Sometimes, as a human, we're going to be out driving our car and we're going to need to brake real quickly to avoid a crash or an incident, a child or a dog or whatever it might be. Right? Our job then is to bring our nervous system as quickly as possible back to safety as soon as we have moved through the incident, right? We as humans, unfortunately, do not do that. So what happens is we have something that bumps us in our autonomic nervous system, right? An email, a text message, a conversation with someone, and we become triggered or pissed off. And we then hold on to that moment for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes, for a day, 5 days, a week, a year, and we spend our energy and attention thinking on, oh, what if I had said this? What if I'd done that? The zebra doesn't go back to thinking, oh shit, what if I had run a little bit quicker or dodged this tree, or, you know, I could have beaten my time last time I ran. No, the zebra doesn't go back and do that, but we do as humans. So we keep our bodies in fight flight by choice, by going backwards with our thoughts into the past and going forwards with our thoughts of worry, doubt and fear into the future. So our spinal sympathetic system is needed and necessary when we need to fight or flee from something that is life-threatening. Now, before I finish this video, let me talk a little bit on the dorsal state on freeze, because again, it's not a bad state, but we can't live there as humans. So I mentioned before that the lion went to chase an antelope, right? Couldn't catch the zebra, super hungry, it's like, sick, I'm gonna go and chase an antelope. So the lion goes off to chase the antelope, and the antelope's not so lucky. So the antelope was also in his green zone, chilling out, doing antelope things. Then the lion comes out of the bush and the antelope would have run, fight, flight. Not so lucky is the antelope then gets caught in the lion's jaws. He has one more system that he can activate, and that is his freeze state. So the antelope in the jaws becomes passive, right? He goes numb, he dissociates, everything goes floppy, the muscle tone goes down, the blood pressure and the heart rate go down. The lion thinks he's dead. He's just dangling in the lion's jaws like this, and the lion's like, man, I wanted live prey, because the lions want live prey. So the lion is now knackered. He drops the antelope, and the lion kind of just mooches off and goes to rest because he's cooked. But the antelope, when he recognizes that the lion has moved, He then gets up and he shakes it all off. He returns back to his ventral state, safe state, and he then goes back to doing antelope things. He survived. Now, we as adults, if we find we're in a freeze state, it means we can't fight flight. It could be a dangerous situation out there in the streets. It could be a traffic incident at the lights where we brake the car, and unfortunately there is going to be an impact. Your body in that moment is going to go into freeze. It will go limp and numb so that you survive, you do your best to survive the impact. If your body is in a fight-flight situation upon impact, you're going to break bones, there's going to be tension, hence why the body drops into this state to try to help you survive. It is fascinating. So hopefully you can see that our fight-flight state and our freeze state, our orange and our red zones, are not bad, but we cannot live there. Okay, so those of you accessing the notes associated to this program, you'll see that in the notes I have drawn up what's called the autonomic hierarchy, or the ANS ladder. And what we can hopefully see here, and again, this will make much more sense in your notes, but for those of you that don't have notes, I'm just going to demonstrate, hopefully really easily and briefly, what actually happens in the autonomic nervous system when we are bumped from our green zone, safety, right, down the ladder into our orange state, fight, flight. And then if we're living in that fight, flight state consistently, known as chronic fight, flight, or stress, we then move down here into the red zone. Now, you can see the little men I've drawn, or women, or whatever gender on the ladder, that they're in a little bit of a different state. So in our green zone, we feel confident, safe, have high self-esteem, feel authentic. In our orange zone, we're a little bit agitated, anxious, and stressed, and angry, potentially. And then down here, we've just got nothing left. It's kind of like your battery is on 1%. And that's kind of what we feel like when we're in that red zone. So as opposed to what I've just discussed and shared with you guys, I want you to just see how this works. As I said, our job as humans is to return back to this state as quickly as possible. How do we do that? We need to become present to aware. And again, I share how to do that in this method, in this book, What's Your Language, through the Be Here method. It's consistently paying attention to what your body is doing in any given moment. You and I have this vehicle that's with you 24/7 to give you cues as to what's going on in your state. So if we are here in this green zone, I'll do my best to demonstrate this. Your body is going to be looking something like this. It's going to be open and receptive. The shoulders will be back, the heart space will be open. You will feel at ease and comfortable. You'll be able to share a hug with another person, to communicate, to have reciprocity, right? There's a real nice sense of openness here, okay? And that looks kind, and it's a high self-esteem. You feel confident and authentic in your body, right? If we are choosing to react to certain situations, text messages, notifications, and anything else that crosses our path, and we let ourselves become reactive instead of responsive, we are then going to shift down the ladder from here, down a few rungs of the hierarchy to our fight-flight system. Now, you'll notice it. You know, the first thing I notice when I shift into fight-flight is I get bloated, right? And I feel my shoulders and my trapezius go up like this. It's called putting on the armor, right? You'll walk around a little bit quicker, right? You might have your head in your phone because you're getting back to emails and text messages and things like that. You're going to miss out on the things that are unfolding in front of you because you have too many things to do. Your digestion is going to slow down or stop because, as I mentioned with the zebra story, there's no need to digest food if you're being chased by a tiger, because that's all the body is thinking. If you have sent your nervous system into fight flight by choice, because we're the only ones that do it, then the body actually thinks it is running from a threat. It doesn't know that you're just running late for work, or you've got emails, or you've just received a notification, or you didn't get as many likes as you wanted on your Insta, whatever, right? You have just put your nervous system into protection mode, and therefore it is going to be tense and closed and reactive, right? And if, like I said before, if you continue to live in this state, which unfortunately, you know, I lived there for many, many years, you know, I share that very openly in my book. I chose to live in a state of fight, flight, because I was constantly in like worry or doubt or fear, or constantly giving power to the belief that I didn't feel enough. That kept my body in a state of reactivity and my thoughts on autopilot. I lived there for so long that my body eventually couldn't handle it. And what's happening, and especially with the overuse of phones and devices these days, is that we are so overwhelmed with information and apps and things like that, trying to steal our attention from our goals and our dreams and our desires, whatever it is that you are working towards. And your body then, of course, over time goes down the ladder, and we end up in a freeze state, right? We end up feeling dissociated and numb, and we couldn't give a shit, we couldn't care less about our goals and our dreams, because what's the point, right? We've lost the ambition, we've lost the creativity, we've lost the ability to see what is important for us, and we just go about our day just holding on. Your freeze state looks like this, right? So I've done this in your other videos, but it's really important to reiterate that. But if you are in your freeze state, your shoulders, instead of being here in fight flight, they're going to be like rolling in, and you're going to be fully closed. Your eyes will be down on the ground or in your phone, right? What's going to happen is there's going to be a rounding of the shoulders. You're going to be walking slower. What you will feel is a heaviness and a sluggishness, and you won't want to sort of communicate or be around people. You'll just kind of want to pull the bed covers over your head kind of thing. This sort of means that our body has gone into shutdown. The heart and the lungs are still working in this state. As I said, you still get by. I lived in my freeze state for many years, especially at the back end of my disordered eating patterns. I'd had it. I was so numb and cooked by that point. I couldn't make decisions. I couldn't read the pages of a book, let alone write one. I didn't have any ambition left to follow, you know, my goals as to what I wanted. I had no idea. And it's really, really important to understand that those three states will look a certain way in our bodies. So does that then raise the question, is your body your biggest teacher? Absolutely. So if we can recognize what our body is doing, so when we're holding our devices and our phones, like understand that by doing this and rolling your shoulders in, you're only communicating to your nervous system that you don't feel safe. This looks like our freeze state. The body is only responding to your cues. So if you want to feel good, it's your job and no one else's to pull the shoulders back, to put your phone in your pocket when you're in public, talk and communicate to people, and be what you want to see in another person. In the next following videos, we're going to be talking about what to do if we notice that we're in these states, and how we can start to move back up to our place of safety. Please understand that none of these states are bad. They are survival states for us, but when we can recognize and understand what's going on, then we can do something about it. So the most important thing is to constantly check in. So as you go through your day, place your hands on your body and just say to yourself, man, like, hey body, what's going on? Like, what do you need? Where are you? What are you feeling? How can I help you? Just as what you do to a small animal or a child, you would consistently ask your friends, is there anything I can do for you? How are you doing? Are you okay? I want you to start to do that for yourself. Come back to your breathing. Your breath work will help regulate your autonomic nervous system. And understand that in 99% of the moments that unfold around us, we do actually have a choice. We can choose to respond, not react, because it's our job to see things differently. No matter what unfolds in our environment, most of the time it's happening anyway. It's up to us if we choose to become all locked up and reactive or tense towards it and make it more difficult for ourselves, or do we choose to relax and stay open through the discomfort, knowing that the moment will pass? And that's always on us. So use your body as your biggest teacher. There's nothing external that you need to help regulate your nervous system. It's everything you need within you and nothing else. So be gentle with yourselves today. Choose to be off your phone as often as possible in public so that you are able to be upright, you're able to see, you're able to communicate, and you're able to feel good in your bodies, and that then becomes your practice. So take care, have fun, come back to the breath work, and I'll see you all next week.